This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
चतुर्मुखसमारम्भम् वाग्भटाचार्यमध्यमम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रागादिरोगान् सततानुषक्तान् अशेषकायप्रसृतान् अशेषान् औत्सुक्य मोहारदिदान् जघान यो पूर्ववैद्याय नमोऽस्तु तस्मै। So namaskaram to all. We have in our last session we have completed that Ushma type of Svedam. Anyway, I think we will go through that sloga. Ushma tu utkarika loshta kapalopalapamsubhihi patrabhangena dhanyena karisha sikata tushaihi अनेकोपाय संदप्तैः प्रयोज्यो देशकालतः. That is what we read or completed in our previous session. So अनेकोपाय संदप्तैः उत्कारिकादिभिः पत्रभंगेन धान्येन करीश सिकतातुषैः ऊष्मा स्वेदः देशकालतः प्रयोज्यः. So that is how it is explained. Now I think that idea is clear. So anekopaya santaptaihi. So there are different upayas, anekopaya, various upayas can be used for generating that ushma which is required for this purpose. This anekopaya, the anekopaya, if you look at Charaka Samhita or Ashtanga Sangraha, you will find a few more explanation about this. This Anekopayata, Ashtadha Bhidyade Ushmasvedaha, Pindaha, Samstaraha, Nadi, Ghanashma, Kumbhi, Kupaha, Kudi, Jayantagaha cha. In Ashtanga Sangraham we find. So Pindaha, Pindasvedam is also known as Sangarasvedam. It is also known as Sangarasvedam. So Pindasvedam. So the word itself is self-explanatory. There we make some sort of a pindam. So there we use this mrutkapalam or pashalam or loha or whatever it is, and they are put into or made into a pindam. And then they will be all these things, loha pindam, everything will be heated, and that hot pieces that will be dipped in the suitable liquid. Sometimes it may be some kashayam, sometimes it may be some dhanyamlam, sometimes jalam, and then that vapor coming from that liquid is used for the swedanam. That is one method of doing it. Sometimes we make the pindam and then dip the pindam in dravam, and then using that pindam swedanam is done. So that is another method. that is Pindasvedam or Sangarasvedam. Then there are other methods called Samstarasvedam. I'm not going to all the details because basically it is about the Ushma type of Ushma Svedam. So there are many types, many modalities of doing the Ushma Svedam, and they are by name, they are known as the Samstaram, Nadi, Ghanashma, Kumbhi, Kupaha, then Kudi, and Jendagahacha. These are the various types of or modalities of doing Ushma Svedam. That is why we find this Anegobaya Sandaptaihi. So Desha Kalataha. Desha Kalataha. According to the Desha. So the convenience is one part or one consideration. So that desham is about the deha desham as well. So sometimes in a pradeshika svedam, certain modalities may not be suitable. Similarly, in some sort of a sveda like sarvadaihigam, certain other modalities may not work. So according to the desham and kalam, similarly in certain ritus or in certain ushmasthiti of the environment, some modality of sedam may not be applicable in say for example in a shita kalam, shishiram or hemandam, certain modalities cannot be done very comfortably. That will that will not create the required swedanam. Say for example, if you go for the shashtika pinda swedam, shashtika means not shali, shashtika pinda swedam, then I think that need not necessarily create the sort of swedanam what is really intended to. So kalam is also a decisive factor. So then you'll have to look for some other modality which will work well even in Siddhartu. So according to the Desha and Kala, we have to decide which is the best Sweda Upayam. So Anegobaya Sandaptaihi Prayojyaha Deshakalataha. Then from Deshakala, I think many other things also can be inferred. It is something like an Upanakshana. From what is told, many other things which are untold can be inferred. That is Upanakshana. Or when one thing is told, automatically the other one also should be understood. So that is also Upanakshana. So here, from the Deshakalataha, many other things should also be inferred, which are relevant. Then we move on to the next type of Svedanam, that is Dravasvedam. Svedastapopanahoshmadravabhedad chadurvitaha. That is what we learned in the beginning itself, of which we have seen Upanaham, then Tapam we saw, then Upanaham we saw, now Ushma also completed. Now the fourth one is the Dravasvedam. Dravasvedam is of two types, Parishegam and Avagaham. So first we will look into Parishegam. What is that? Shigruvaranagairanda Karanja Surasarjagad Shirisha Vasha Vamsharka Maladi Dirghavrundadaha Patrabhangaihi. Up to that, the Patrabhanga should be connected to all those other dravyas which are explained up to that point. Shigru Varanagairanda Karanja Surasarjagam Shigru Varanagairanda Karanja Surasarjagad Shirisha Vasha Vamsha Arka Maladi Dirghavrundataha Patrabhangaihi. So the Patrabhanga, Patram leaf, Patrabhangam broken leaf. So the broken leaf from these plants which are explained, then Vajadyaischa. Vajadi is what we saw in our Upanaham. Vajakinna Shadahva Devadarubhihi. So Vajadyihi or Vajadi Ganam, okay, that is another option, but in this context, what we have seen in Upanahasvedam as the Vajadi is more relevant. Then Mamsaischa Anubavarijaihi. Anubavarijaihi Mamsaihi. So certain types, very specific types of Mamsam, Anubamamsam or Jalaja Mamsam, Varija Mamsam. So Mamsaihi cha Anubavarijaihi. Then Dashamulena cha. Dashamulena cha. So next option is Dashamulena. Then that certain specifications given Prithak Sahidairva Yadhamalam. Prithak Sahidairva Yadhamalam. So here certain commentaries we find that this Prithak Sahitairva is connected with the Dashamulam. But that need not be the case. From whatever we have explained so far, that means Shigru Varanagairanda Karanja Surasarjagad Shirisha Vasha Vamsarka Maladi Dirghavrundadaha Patrabhangaihi. So whatever is suitable, all such things can be taken. So Prithak, so certain things alone, certain things are discarded or omitted. Or Sahitairva, all together is also an option, provided the Vaidya decides that okay, all these things are going to be considered or taken. Okay. So up to that Dashamula, all the things from that Patrabhangas of various plants, then Vajadi, Anubavarijaihi, Mamsaihi, Dashamulena, to all these things we have to connect Prithak Sahidairva. How? Yadhamalam. Yadhamalam. According to the dosha status, you can decide which all things are to be taken, which all things are to be excluded or omitted. Accordingly, you take. Then, Snehavadbhihi. So it is Snehavad, Snehavadbhihi. So you should include, you should add Sneham. Snehavadbhihi. Then, Surasukta Varikshiradi Sadhidaihi. Kumbhir Galandir Nadir Va Puraitva. Rujardidam Vasasa Achadidam Gatram Snigdham Sinjed Yatha Sukham. Vasasa Achadidam Gatram Snigdham Sinjed Yatha Sukham. So here the procedure is explained. So we find Yathamalam according to the doshas, Snehavadbhihi. In the commentary we find the details. Snehavadbhihi. So doshahara ghrudadi anyatama sneha yuktaihi yatha dosham surasukta varikshiradi sadhitaihi kumbhihi purayitva. So that dravam is prepared using those medicines which are explained. The dravam is prepared, then kumbhir galandir nadir va purayitva. Kumbhir galandir nadir va purayitva. So kumbhi, so that is something like a big vessel. It is a big vessel. Then galandi, nadi, these are all types of vessels in which this prepared dravam can be carried, taken. Then vasasachadidam gatram, the gatra of the patient should be prepared in such a way. What is that? Vasasa achadidam covered. Vasasa achadidam, covered with a cloth, with a cloth. Vasasa achadidam gatram, and the gatram should be snigdham, sinjed. So by pouring this prepared medicine, this water, this liquid, over that vasasa achadidam snigdham gatram, yatha sukham sinjed, that may be poured over the body. Yatha sukham means the temperature, the ushnada of the dravam should be regulated, so to the level of sukhas parishada. So sometimes according to the condition and according to the desha and kala, a little bit higher level of ushnata may be tolerated, but in certain other areas you can't expect, in certain ritus you can't expect all those things. So here there are some areas which needs more explanation. So again, I think the explanation given in Ashtanga Hridayam is not sufficient to get a correct idea about the procedure, as we saw in the case of that Upanaham. So I think to get a better idea about this procedure, we will go through the Ashtanga Sangraham as well. In Sangraham, what we find? Dravasvedaha tu Vividhaha Parishekaha Avagahaha cha. Tatra, the list of that herbs which we found in Ashtanga Hridaya is also given here. Something is more. What is that? Shigru, Varana, Amradaka, Mulaka, Sarshapa, Surasarjaga, Vasha, Vamsha, Ashmandaka, Ashoka, Shirisha, Arka, Karanja, Eranda, Maladi, Patrabhanga. So we find a longer list. Then Pudiga Dashamuladi Vadaharadravya Mastu Salila Sura Kshira Shuktadi Kwadhaihi. So the preparation is more elaborate or more see diverse. So here we find Vadaharadravya Mastu Salila Sura Kshira, then Shuktadi Kwadhaihi Purvoktaihi cha. Purvoktam means whatever is explained for the Upanaham. So Purvoktaihi cha Yadhadosham Prithak Sahidairva. So Yadha, which we saw in Ashtanga Hridayam as well. Then Kumbhi Varshanika Pranadhirva. Kumbhi Galandi is Varshanika. So that is various types of vessels, utensils which can be used for taking this liquid and get poured over the body in a proper stream without much deflection and inconsistency. So Kumbhi Varshanika Pranadhirva Purayitva, then Vadahara Siddha Snehabhyaktam Anabhyaktam Va. So in all situations, there we find that Snigdham Sinjet Yatha Sukham, but here it is not made mandatory. The choice again is more is to be made on the situation. So here we find Snehabhyaktam Anabhyaktam Va, then Upavishtam, so either in sitting position or Kilinjeva Shayanam, so either sitting position or lying down on a mat made out of this particular type of trinam. Mat made out of a particular type of trinam is known as kilinjam. So, kilinjeva shayanam egange sarvange va vastravachanne parishejayed. So here the procedure is explained in a more, or explained with more clarity. Here we find that the choice is more. Then you can prepare various types of dravas according to the dosha. Then you can make the person sit or lie down according to the area which is going to be subjected with the Sweda Kriya. Then that egange sarvangeva, according to the situation, the procedure is explained in a more elaborate manner. So sarvange egange sarvangeva vastravachanne parishejayed. So that is what we find in these 7 or 8 lines of sloka in Ashtanga Hridayam. Details are little bit limited in Ashtanga Hridayam, but the concept is fully included, and that explanation I think is better in Ashtanga Sangraha. So I will read out the sloka in Hridayam once again, but I hope that the concept is very well clear with the detailing in Ashtanga Sangraha. Okay, so ശിഗ്രുവാരണകൈരണ്ട കരഞ്ച സുരസാർജഗാത് ശിരീഷവാശാവംശാർക്ക മാലതീ ദീർഘവൃന്തതഃ പത്രഭംഗൈഃ വജാദ്യൈശ്ച മാംസൈശ്ച ആനൂപവാരിജൈഃ then patrabhangair vajadhyascha mamsaischa anubavarijaihi dashamulena cha पृथक् सहितैर्वा यथामलं स्नेहवद्भिः सुराशुक्तवारिक्षीरादिसाधितैः कुम्भीर्गळन्दीर्नाडीर्वा पूरयित्वा रुजार्दितं वाससाच्छादितं गात्रं स्निग्धं सिञ्जेद् यथा सुखम्. स्निग्धं सिञ्जेद् यथा सुखम्. So that is our Dravasvedam of Parishega type. Then one more Dravasveda option is there, that is known as Avagaha. So in the next lines we find Tairevava Dravaihi Purnam Kundam Sarvangage Nile Avagahyadurastishthed Arsha Krichradi Rukshucha. Tairevava Dravaihi Purnam Kundam Sarvangage Nile Avagahya Adurastishthed. Avagahya Aduraha Tishthed Arsha Krichradi Rukshu cha. Arsha Krichradi Rukshu, in the pain caused by Arshas and Mutra Krichram, in situations of Ruk caused by Arshas, Arshaha or Mutra Krichraha. Then in such situations, or Sarvangage Anile, in situations where there is Sarvangaga Vadakopam. So the same Drava, Taihi Evava Dravaihi, the same Drava, Purnam Kundam, Taihi Dravaihi Purnam Kundam, in a larger utensil filled with these medicated preparation, what we saw in the case of Parishegam, fill those utensils with that Dravam, then Avagahya Aduraha Tishthed, in that utensil or vessel, Aduraha Avagahya Tishthed. So put the person in that Drava immersed up to the neck level. So Avagahya Aduraha Tishthed. And this is beneficial or can be used in Arshakrithradi Rukshuja, where the dip need not be so elaborate, because they are the Sweda is required in such vikaras in the Sthaniga form only. So in the recent times we find various types of avagaham like spinal bath or hip bath, sits bath. All these things, all these methodologies or modalities are coming under this avagaha type of dravasvedam. And the other things like our dhanyamla dhara, kashaya dhara, kayasegam, what we call as spiritual in this part of the country. So all these things are coming under in the earlier version of the Dravasvedam, that is our Parishegam. So the Parishegam including the Kayasegam, and here it is Avagaham which also covers apart from. So we find in certain conditions of Vadavyadhi which has got Sarvadaihiga implication like Ayamam, Tailadronyam cha Shayanam. We find as explained in Ashtanga Hridayam and other textbooks. Tailadronyam cha Shayanam. So that Tailadroni filled with this selected thylam, and then the patient, the person is lying immersed in that Tailadronyam cha Shayanam. Then lesser versions like this spinal bathtub or hip bathtub, sits bathtub, all these things are coming under this avagaha type of dravasvedam. Then we move forward to the other aspects of doing Sweda Kriya. What is that? Nivadendarbahisnigthaha Jirnannaha Swedamajared. Nivadendarbahisnigdho. Nivade Andarbahisnigthaha. Andarbahisnigthaha. Andasnigthaha bahisnigthaha cha. Andaha bahihi cha snigthaha. Andarbahisnigthaha Jirnannaha Swedamajared. So here we find Swedam Ajared. Go for the Swedanam. Practice Swedanam. How? First condition, Nivade. In a room where there is no direct blowing wind. Nivadam. It doesn't mean that without air, but without directly blowing air or wind into the room. Nivade. It is not nirgade vade but niyandride vade. Nivade. Andarbahisnigthaha. Andasnigthaha bahisnigthaha. Andasnigthatvam is achieved by snehapanam. Andasnigthatvam. Bahisnigthatvam by abhyangam. Abhyangam. So andarbahisnigthaha jirnannaha. So when you find this andarbahisnigthaha, and considering the context of explanation, we assume that this direction is for the Shodhana Chikitsa. Sneha Karma is explained, and the coming chapter is about the Vamana Virejana Vidhi. So in between this Swedanam is obviously expected to be a Purva Karma of Shodhanam. So all these things are relevant in that context. Nivade andarbahisnigthaha jirnannaha. Jirnannaha. When there is jarana prakriya going on, or when there is ajirna, you are not supposed to go for Swedanam in this context. I am repeating this because there are certain situations where Swedanam is advised in ajirnam. In Matrachidiyam, you find some situations which can be considered as an exception. it should not be considered as an example. It is an exceptional situation where Swedanam is advised in uh, there is where there is ajirnam. The condition everyone knows, that is the Vishtambhajirnam. In Vishtambhajirnam, Swedanam is advised. But that is not a context of Sodhana Chikitsa as such. It is not a context of systematic Panchakarma. So here what we find is specific to the context of Sodhana Chikitsa. That should not be overlooked. So Jirnannaha Swedamachared. How? That is what the next line is explaining. Vyadhi Vyadhida Deshartu Vashad Madhyavaravaram. Madhyavaravaram. Vyadhi Vyadhida Deshartu Vashad. Vyadhi Vashad. Vyadhita Vashad. Deshavashad and Ruduvashad. Vyadhi Vyadhida Deshartu Vashad. How or what type? Madhyavaravaram. Madhyamasneham or Pravarasneham. So sorry, Swedanam or Avarasvedanam. Madhyamasvedanam, Pravara or Uttamasvedanam, Avarasvedanam. Avarasvedanam. So the choice goes to or is with the Vaidya. According to the Vashad, according to the Vyadhi, according to the Vyadhi, in certain Vyadhi that may require Pravarasvedanam, Shuddhavada Avastha, or some Kabhanubadha Vada Avastha. Rogi is having Uttama Balam, Desham is Anupam, Ritu is Sheetam. Then obviously you should go for Pravarasneha Swedanam, Pravarasvedanam. But that need not be the case always. Vyadhi, a suspected case of Pittanubandhavayu. Pittanubandham is suspected. You have to go for Avarasvedanam. Even though you are targeting the Vayu and planning to do a Svedanam, when a Pittanubandham, even a distant Pittanubandham is suspected, you can go for Avarasvedanam only. Then Desham, as I mentioned earlier, Anupadesham, Vadavyadhi, you go for Uttamasme Swedanam. But in a Jangala Desham, you can't go for that. Whenever there is Rutu is explained, Desham Rutu, in Grishma Rutu, you can go for Avarasneham only, Swedam only. Whereas in the Hemandam or Sisiram, you can go for Uttamasvedanam. But sometimes in between, where there is threat of Pitta Kopam, Sanchita Pittam may go for Kopam, Varshartu, Vadakopam, Pitta Chayam. You have to go for a Madhyamasvedanam. You can't go for an Uttamasvedanam, but you can go for a Madhyamasvedanam. So what is the characteristics of this Uttamasvedanam, Avarasvedanam and Madhyamasvedanam? It is highly subjective. So it is quite experiential. You can't set some sort of a standard. This much temperature for this much time using this device is known as Uttama Svedam, or this Svedam is known as Avara Svedam. No, it is very difficult. You have to have a thorough understanding of the situation as a whole, and you should be present yourself with the procedure, and you decide which is Uttama Swedanam, which is Avara Swedanam, and which is Madhyama Swedanam in a given case. So it is all about the assessment by the Vaidya. It is not by something like a very objective standard operative procedure in terms of time and temperature need not be practicable in such decision making. So व्याधि व्याधिद देशर्तु वशाद मध्य वरावरम स्वेदम निवादे अंतर्बहिस्निग्धः जीर्णान्नः आचरेत्. जीर्णान्नः आचरेत्. That is what we get from these two lines. Then moving further forward, we find certain specific applications of Svedana, specific modalities. What is that? Kabharto rukshanam rukshaha. Kabharto rukshanam rukshaha. In the text shown in the screen, you find the next part as rukshaha snigdham kabhanile. But in most of the old textbooks, it is like rukshasnigdham together. Rukshasnigdham kabhanile. And interestingly, the padham which is accepted by Hemadri is little bit different again. Hemadri takes this padham as kabhetam rukshanaihi rukshaha rukshasnigdham kabhanile. That is what Hemadri's padham. Anyway, we will find what is explained. Kabhartaha rukshanam rukshaha. Kabhartaha vyadhitaha. Kabhartaha vyadhitaha. A vyadhita, a rogi who is kabhartaha, afflicted by or suffering by a disorder caused by kabha. Kabhartaha, kabhena arthaha, vyadhitaha. Rukshaha, rukshaha, without application of any bahya sneha or andara sneha, which is the standard operative procedure. Andarbhisnikthaha, here rukshaha. So kabhartaha rukshaha rukshanam svedam achared. Rukshanam svedam asnigdha svedam, without the use of any type of sneham. The patient should be subjected to svedana kriya, and the tools selected for doing the svedana should also be ruksham. That is why rukshanam svedaha. Kabhartaha rukshanam rukshaha. We are doing it. We are in many situations we will be doing, see, in certain conditions like amavadam. Amavadam, you decide to go for a swedanam. Okay, I am not going to the merit of your decision, but anyway, you decided to go for Swedanam in Amavadam, and he is a person who is loaded with Amam, which is similar to Kabhaha, so that way he is Kabhartaha. So in Kabharte, Rukshaha, without the application of any Sneha, you are going to do Ruksha Sneham. Okay, maybe with this sand or pieces of cloth tied into a bundle and heating it on a dry heat source, you are going to do Swedanam. That is a Rukshana Swedanam. So Kabhartaha Rukshanam Rukshaha Rukshasnigdham Kabhanile. Kabhanile Rukshaha Snigdham Svedam. So that is one way of explaining this line. But when there is Rukshasnigdham put together, which is the traditional padham explained or accepted in the Kerala school, we take it as Rukshasnigdham Kabhanile. That is the most fashionable uh, way of the text in Kerala. So in such situation, Kabhanile. Kabhanile means in a condition where there is Kabha and Anila. Anila is Vayu. Kabha and Vayu are predominating. Then what should be the selection? Uh, Rukshasnigdham. Rukshasnigdham. First Rukshana and then Snehana. So in Kabhanila Vyadhi, you may start with the Ruksha Sweda and then Sniktha Sweda. as in the case of previous situation, that Kabharta Amavadarogi, you started with a Ruksha Svedam, and as and when the Kabha comes down to the Samavastha and still the Vadakopam persisting, then you can slowly switch it over to some sort of an Ushma Sveda. Okay, you decide to do a Patrapodani Svedam, which is something like a Snigdha Svedam, which is not a Ruksha Svedam, it is a Snigdha Svedam. So from slowly from that Valuga Pinda Svedam, you are switching over to Patra Pinda Svedam in the second half. So that is what is explained here. Rukshasniktham Kabhanile. And there may be many fashions or ways of doing these procedures. I have seen certain Vaidyas doing this alternatively. One day Ruksha Svedanam, second day Snigdha Svedanam, like that. So I think we can't say that which is right or which is wrong in the extreme sense, but what is explained in the textbook goes like this: Rukshasnigdham Kabhanile. Rukshasnigdham Kabhanile. In Ashtanga Sangraham also we find the line in the same way as I explained earlier. Kabharto Rukshanam Rukshaha Rukshasnigdham Kabhanile. Then again some special situations can be seen explained. What is that? Amashaya Gade Vayau Kabhe Pakvashayashrite Rukshapurvam Tadha Snehapurvam Sthananurothatah. Amashaya Gade Vayau Kabhe Pakvashayashrite Rukshapurvam Tadha Snehapurvam Sthananurothatah. So here we find some special suggestion. What is that? Suppose Vayu is Kupita in Amashaya. Kupita Vayu is Amashaya Sthidam. And we all know that the doshas can be considered in different methods or different ways. When one dosha is occupying the sthana of some other dosha, the original dosha which is situated in that particular sthana will be known by the name sthani, and the one which occupies its sthana will be known by the name agandu. So here Amashe Gade Vayau. Amashe Gade Vayau. Amashayam is the sthana vishesham which is kabhasthanam. So sthani dosha is kabha. But kupita dosha is Vayu which has come to occupy the sthana of kabha. So here sthani is kabha and agandu is Vayu. Sthani is not kupita, agandu is kupita. This is the situation. Then another situation explained. Second example. Pakvashayashride kabhe. Pakvashayashride kabhe. Pakvashayam is the sthana of Vayu and Kupita kabha occupies the Pakvashayam. So the sthani dosha is Vayu. Agandu dosha which is Bali is kabha. Kupita dosha is kabha. After giving these two examples, the treatment option as far as Svedana Kriya is concerned, it goes like this. In the first situation, you go for Rukshapurva Svedanam. Rukshapurvam means first you go for Ruksha Svedam. Then you may go for, if required, you may go for Snigdha Swedam. That is optional, but in any case, Ruksha Purvata is required. So what is the situation? Amase Gate Vayau Ruksha Purvam. So we first go for Rukshada. So that is meant for the Sthani dosha. So it is meant for the Sthani dosha. Then if required, you can go for the Swedanam required for the Agantu dosha. That is the general advice. We may recollect one sloka in the Sutrasthana in some other previous chapter. Tatranyasthana samstheshu tadiyam abaleshu tu. Tatranyasthana samstheshu tadiyam abaleshu tu kuryat chikitsam. So, anyasthana samstheshu abaleshu tu tadiyam chikitsam kuryad. That is the rule which we find advised here. When Vayu is occupying the Kabhasthana, the Svedana should first focus the Kabha, which is the Sthani dosha. That is why we find Ruksha Purvam. In the same way, when Kabha is Kupida in the Pakvashaya, the treatment should be Snigdha Purvam or Sneha Purvam. So focusing on the Sthani dosha, which is the Vayu in Pakvashaya, we go for Sneha Purva Swedanam. If required, thereafter, you can go for Ruksha Swedam. And the rule behind is the Sthananurodhataha, based on the assessment and importance of the Sthana, you may go for such a strategy like this. That is what we find in these two lines. But don't go for extreme levels of some sort of a generalization in this regard. Because even in the Sutrasthana, in the earlier sloga, we find Tatra Anyasthana Samstheshu Tadiyam Abaleshu Tu Kuryat Chikitsam Swameva Balenanya Bhibhavishu. That line also comes in the Amase Gata Vayu. If the Vayu is so strong, then I think you will have to violate from this general rule. In the same way, Kabhe Pakvashayashrite, if the Kabha is so strong to outsmart the presence of the Sthani dosha, you will have to think otherwise. So don't go for extreme generalization, but take this as a guideline. Sthananurodhadaha, this is the guideline for the selection of Svedana Kriya in these two situations. That is what we have to understand. Then, further moving forward, we find certain uh, points regarding the care to be taken while going for the Svedana of certain desha. So that is Deshadhishtita advices. What is that? Alpam Vanshanayoho Swalpam Dringmushka Hridaye Nava. Alpam Vanshanayoho Swalpam Dringmushka Hridaye Nava. So, Svedamajaredu, how Vanshanayoho Alpam. When you are planning to do the Svedana Karma specifically on the Vankshana Desham, in the groins, considering the importance by many aspects of that Deha Desha, it is advised that Alpam Svedamajredu. Alpam. Similarly, Dringmushka Hridaye. Dringmushka Hridayam. These three deshas, if you opt for Svedana Chikitsa, go for Swalpam. Alpada is further specified with the term Su alpam, swalpam, further minimal, further minimum, further less. So that should be the strategy. Again, this is also based on some sort of a sthana anurodhadaha. It is based on the importance of the sthana. Alpam vanksanayoho swalpam dringmushka hridaye nava. And in the same context in Ashtanga Sangraham, we find some other precautions to be taken. What is that? Patmolpaladibhihi Saktupindya va achadya chakshushi. You can find it on the screen in that explanation by Hemadri. Sarvanga Sundara doesn't touch this explanation from Sangraha, but you can find it in Ayurveda Rasayanam. What is that? Patmolpaladibhihi Saktupindya va achadya chakshushi. When you are doing the Svedana in an unavoidable situation, you are doing the Svedana of the Jatrurdhva as a whole. So, in order to protect the eyes from getting exposed to excessive Svedana, what can you do? Patmolpaladibhihi achadya, chakshushi achadya. Using the petals of Padma Utpala type of flowers, which are Siddhavirya, that way, or Saktupindya Achadya, Achadanam covering. So cover the eyes with either Padmolpaladi or with the Saktupindi. Then you do the Swedanam so that the eyes can be, Chakshus can be preserved or protected from the potential excessive exposure to Swedanam. Then Shidaihi Muktavali Patma Kumudolpala Bhajanaihi Muhu Karaischa Sajalaihi Svidyadaha Hridayam Sprushed. That is also an explanation. That is also a precaution. What is that? Shidaihi Muktavali Patma Kumudolpala Bhajanaihi. Shidaihi. Shidam, Shidam. Then Muktavali Padma Ulpala Kumuda, sorry, Padma Kumuda Ulpala Bhajanaihi. So with the Muktavali means this pearls, then other flowers, that Padmam, Kumudam, Ulpalam, then Bhajanam, then using these things either with the Padmam, Ulpalam or Kumudam or Bhajanam. Bhajanam means some small vessel which is cold. Then Toyardreihi Karaihi Cha. Karam, hand, palm, dipping the palm in cold water. So with the sum of the any of these measures, Svidyadaha Hridayam Sprushed. Sprushed, you touch Hridayam on the Hridaya Bhagam with these, one of these uh, tools which are advised here while the Swedanam is in progress. While Swedanam is in progress, you touch the Hridaya Desham with any one of these explained Muktavali Padma Kumudolpala Bhajanaihi Shidaihi or Sajalaihi Karaihi Cha Muhuhu repeatedly Hridayam Sprushed, touch the Hridaya Desha. So that is the care which is advised to be taken while we are doing Sarvadaihiga Sneha Swedanam or similar Swedana Kriyas. With that we conclude. In the next lesson, next session, we will find the Samyak Lakshana of Svedana, how to understand that the proper Svedana is done. So we will look into that aspect in our next session. There is one question asked in the chat box. Could you please explain situations where Dravasveda and Pindasveda should be used? Definitely, it is coming in our next session. It is coming in our next session. We will discuss. If it is not complete, then raise this question once again. We will discuss it. Okay. So with that, if there are no other points to discuss, we will close here. Thank you very much, and Shubharatri.
Thank you very much, Prasad sir, for such a wonderful explanation. I think there are many queries or curiosity about the next sessions. So let's hold our this curiosity, and we will meet in our next session.
Definitely, definitely, we will see.
Yes. Thank you, Prasad sir. Thank you, everyone. Shubharatri.